Thank you for joining the Pain to Triumph podcast. Today, we will be interviewing Tracy Dunbar as she shares her journey of dealing with multiple sclerosis. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Just truly grateful and honored to have you on the show so you can walk us through this journey. My name is Faye, and my partner here is Rovonda, and we got Miss Tracy here today. So we just want to get right into it. So, Tracy, I know, from previous conversations that this has been quite the journey. Can you tell us when was the first time you ever heard of MS? And did you ever know anybody else impacted with multiple sclerosis?
My journey started many moons ago as a preteen when I was early introduced to terms in the MS community like lesions, like MRI, stabbing sensations, electricity running through the body, just various terminologies that I didn't quite understand as a young child. Mind you, I'm preteen and all of this is flowing in my home. And so my mom was a single mom. She was a powerful, dynamic little lady. And it was interesting to see that there was a shift in the house. And the shift started coming slowly with these terminologies, but then some hearing her, as children, we listen to our adults in the house, right? And them talking to their family and friends and things of that sort. And so I started hearing the term multiple sclerosis. And so
Mm.
I often wondered what that term had meant. I'll never forget as a kid, I was on my way to school. And back then I was a latchkey kid. And so I was a single kid getting ready to go to school. And as I was proceeding to go out the house, a stranger, had brought my mom home. She
Huh.
had recently just left for work. I was
Mm.
on my way out. Somehow or another, I opened the door and there's a stranger bringing my mom home, and her legs were bloody. I mean, just bloody. She comes in the home and she says that she fell on the train track of the metro. I'm from originally Chicago and we live by the railroad tracks. And she was taking the train to work that day. And
Mm.
she said she had literally fell and there was a very nice pedestrian who brought her home. Fast forward from that experience, I gradually began to lose my vision, and my mom took me to ophthalmologist. She took me to optometrist. It did not come to a point to where she was just lost at what to do. She took me to her neurologist,
Mhm.
and her neurologist prescribed prednisone, and prednisone is actually, you guys, what brought my vision back. So going from that time that I recall of my mom falling and having bloody legs and seeing the changes within her, 2 years later, the changes within me and my vision, that was very much my first encounter, introduction to multiple sclerosis. And so from there, it went and graduated into other things. I start having what we call freak accidents, right? And it led to me having loss of sensation on one side of my body and having to be on crutches. So from 9 years old all the way up to 2018, it is all of these highs and lows of experiences that I had with MS, and no one could actually diagnose the term MS within me. Now, I had watched it as a child with my mom, as I mentioned. So I was becoming more aware of her changes, not knowing that the changes I was experiencing would be identical in the sense of having the same diagnosis. So, of February 2018,
Mm.
after many encounters with MS, it was finally shared with me by a neurologist that I too was facing MS. Now, the difference between my experience and watching my mom is that we had 2 different kinds. So in the MS community, and to all my MS people out there, we know that there's progressive MS and then there's relapsing remitting MS, RMSS, and then progressive MS. My mom had the progressive MS, so her disability was outwardly shown is what I really call it, where she was having mobility challenges. She went on to go from a cane to a walker to a actual wheelchair in a short amount of time. And so inwardly is where most of my relapse and remitting MS shows, right? Inwardly is the fight inside of me with the lesions on the brain, with the chronic fatigue, which is a huge MS symptom. Chronic fatigue, not something you could just go to sleep and wake up, it's all over with. The stabbing sensations in your legs, the burning, I mean, there are all types of ways you can describe it. But here's the thing I really want to share with you ladies is that it's a disease that is a snowflake disease. It looks different on everyone. Okay.
Okay.
And when people identify that they have MS, the worst thing I've seen or encounter is people saying, "Oh, well, you don't look sick." And I know it comes sometimes from a place of just
Yeah.
they don't know what to say,
They
right? So, depending on the person, right? That is, depending on your network and your community and how it's said and all the other contexts, it's something that first that I was introduced in seeing in my mom and now understanding it at a different level.
What would you say was your biggest misconception when dealing with, the diagnosis of MS?
Boy, that's such a loaded question because in February of 2018, when I originally got the diagnosis, there were several emotions that came up for me personally. And I know everyone out there, once you had your experience, there were perhaps several emotions that came up for you too. For me, it was a place of this was a death sentence. This was, something that after watching my mom, and by the way, when I got the diagnosis in 2018 of February, I had just lost my mom in 2016 in June. So it was less than
Yeah.
2 years. So the feelings were still raw, right? And so having watched her journey, I just felt as though it was a death sentence.
Mm.
And moving past that, I went from that to feeling okay. Well, it's confirmed. I knew it wasn't all in my head. I know I'm not crazy. I knew that there was something wrong. And all these years, it felt a level of comfort in knowing it wasn't all in my head. And it's almost like one of those things like, see, I told you, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong, right? So you kind of
Yeah.
go through that wave too. So you
Mhm.
go through that almost like a terminal for me, and it's speaking solely for me, it was like a
Mhm.
terminal diagnosis to, okay, I knew it. I have finally got confirmation. And then I slowly graduate into a sense of power. Like, I'm going to take this back. No,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is not a death sentence. This is not, you crazy or anything. And this journey now that you have been given by God, what are you going to do with it? So I had to tap into my faith. It's not a death sentence because I watched my mom suffer and because I kind of watched and didn't agree with some of the changes, if you will, that she made for herself to make herself feel comfortable. And to give you an example of what I'm saying is, I felt like my mom, who was just a socialite, my mom was the house where you had the fish fries. My mom was the house where you had the party. And Imma tell you a secret, all right, ladies, you ready for this? My mom's name is Margaret, but her friends call her Marty, and her nickname was Party Marty. Weekends at her house back in the day, and all my community members out there with MS, you might know because 'cause I'm aging myself now, the fish fries and all of that, that was at my house as a kid, when they were frying buffalo. It wasn't catfish. This is when they were frying
Buffalo.
buffalo. You hear me? With that spaghetti and coleslaw. And so, I just remember all of that. So, I felt as though she went from that party Marty to a diagnosis to quickly just kind of barricading herself in her home. And that was sad to see. But I'll tell you in respect to that is my mom, strong Gemini personality, very strong. had it her way. So, in order for her to be the party Marty, the party had to come to her house when it did, and she did it the best way she knew. So it
Mhm.
would be outside where it was convenient for wheelchairs. It would be, it would be more different. It looked different, but she again did it her way. Although she didn't go out as much and travel, I felt like in a sense she barricaded herself in her house. So in all due respect, to go from that person and watching her to a difference, I have a different type of MS. So I can see now, you gotta be careful one of those things of being judgmental what other people do until you're in those shoes. I can look
Yeah.
back and say, "I got it now. I
Mhm.
understand what you did. I
Mhm.
understand what that meant," right?
Mhm.
And I find my triumph and my truth in my disease and in carrying this disease similarly in that I gotta just change it up. I just gotta change it up on how I do it and still get it done.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, how has your MS, and thank you for specifying that there's different types because I was not aware, and some people watching
Yeah.
may not be aware. So thank you for that. So, how has your MS impacted your daily life, like with your physical, emotional, mental? Like, how has it impacted you?
Oh, Faye and Rovonda, that's such a loaded question. Oh my gosh. Because I think right now, in all truthfulness, I'm feeling some of that now. Emotionally, physically, and socially, because that's again a loaded question on all three layers. It's impacted the way I plan my day. It's
Mhm.
impacted the way I plan events. What used to be, maybe a quick turnaround period may take me a lot longer now. It has impacted me too, and I'll say this from a physical stance because when I got diagnosis and I got through that wave of emotion of feeling, death sentence to acknowledgement and confirmation, I went into a trajectory of trying to really take care of my physical health. So I went and got a good old trusted workout master and started working out like a crazy lady, right? I got me a trainer and I changed my eating habits, which I still carry out to this day, but my physical ability was strong. 2018, here's 2025, not so much. Not so
Yeah.
much. And that could be for a couple of reasons because I recently had back surgery too, but I'll be honest with you, just it's hard to really have to mentally prepare myself for activity. My spirit is so still alive in here, and I know a lot of you are feeling the same way out there, my MS community. Your spirit is still here, and it's still the same, but it's that physical body with the limitations perhaps placed upon you that you can't fulfill those things that you want. And then cognitively, you know, I laugh at myself sometimes to not cry, but I laugh because I don't know if it's old age or my MS, right? Is that one of those things where I can say, "Oh, that's just old age." "Oh, no, baby, that's MS," and that's that cog fog. And I know my MS community know what I'm talking about. When you get that mental unclarity, you kinda got that cog
Mhm.
fog, right?
Mhm.
Walking into a room, you forgot what you went in there for. Anybody out there know what I'm talking about. Or I'm at work and I wanted to say something and I completely lost my train of thought, which I'm probably doing in this interview right now. All of that is impacted in various ways, but I'm so thankful I have a strong family dynamic, friend group, who don't point out my flaws. We can joke. It's not always sensitive to bring it up for me or if we play on each other because we have those relationships. And so, it's impacted me in various ways. Like right now, and here's another one. I'm gonna say this without crying because, and I'm speaking specifically to my MS community out there. It's hard every day, every single day, to know that you have got to fight through pain.
Wow.
And I don't want and I mean I'm not talking about a little hurt here and there. I'm talking about a mentalness of knowing every single day, Lord, I'm in pain. I'm in physical pain. How do I live for the rest of my life, however many years you give me, with knowing that every day I'm going to be faced with pain? It
That's
takes a level of mental toughness because that's how I feel, ladies. I'm in pain every single day of my life. And this is where my faith, because this is why pain to triumph is so critical. And I just love that you guys are promoting this, is that it takes a level of faith to believe that one day, I'm trusting in you, Lord,
mhm,
that I won't wake up in pain. Now, granted, some days are better than others, but when I say better than, and I'm gonna put in perspective with percentage, someday I may be at 85% pain versus 58% pain,
mhm,
but I'm still in pain.
right.
So, to my MS community out there, I know what it feels like to have to get up, and I know the struggles of what's in here, the spirit that lives in here versus the outwardly activeness that you want to do or how you want to be a part of or all the things you can't do any longer or you struggle to do. That's real. That's real, ladies. And I'm in pain so much that I've asked God, is this the rest of my life? I I quote back scripture as though he don't know what I mean, but I quote back scriptures to my daddy God, and I say to him, like, but you said your grace is sufficient. And so I'm struggling to understand why is it that this is my journey. So I just want to encourage my MS community out there. You're not alone. You're not.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, you touched on a few things that lead into my next question. You did touch on the fact that you have a support system. And tell us a little bit how that support system has helped you cope with the disease.
Yeah. Well, Miss Rowe, I think one of the grandest gestures that was ever made was the day I came home from my diagnosis. And I came home in such a, again, warring state of mind. And I looked at my husband and I said, honey, I sat him down. I said, you could divorce me now. He said, excuse me? I said, today I got the results of my testing that I told you about, XYZ, and it's come back confirmed that I have multiple sclerosis. And I said, so it's okay, you can divorce me now. Now, mind you, we've been married. So 2000, we've been married to date 25 years. So back in 2018, so that's 18 years we have been married. And he's like, girl, I'm going nowhere. Are you crazy? What is wrong with you? Like, and so my 2 sons were living when they were living with us, we all had a family meeting. I was big about family meetings when we were all a family unit about having, especially when it comes to big conversations like this. They were even like, "Oh my god, mom, you're being overdramatic. Oh my god," because 'cause I'm crying and I'm just like giving my husband permission to leave me and stuff. So my husband has been the biggest supporter. He has supported me in the MS walks. As of recently, I was honored at the most recent MS walk here in Phoenix, Arizona, and he was my biggest cheerleader. He was sick, not feeling well himself, but despite whatever he's going through, it was about me. He is a huge supporter. My children are huge supporters. My friends are. I got some bad bleepity bleep friends. Okay? My friends are the truth. Like, there is no
Yes, they are.
they are. I mean, I have some amazing,
Facts.
incredible, authentic real down home, true, you know, I've even one time we was on a girls trip, I'll tell you this, it's a little secret, even though this is gonna be shared with the world, where, I share with them my accident. Like, I had an accident one time, and it like, wasn't a laugh, like, at me, it was a laugh with me, like, "Oh my god, let me tell you what happened," and I was so feeling embarrassed and ashamed, and it was crazy, but they understood and softened the blow in such a way of hugs, kisses, "I don't see you no differently," or anything like that, so I have an incredible amount of friends, a credible amount of family, people at work who are very sweet, who are very kind. Not everyone knows about my MS diagnosis, but those who do, including my supervisor.
Wow. That's amazing. It sounds like you have an amazing support system. And I know everybody out there listening does not. So, can you give them any nuggets or wisdom just to share with them? How do you manage your stress and your mental health?
I love spas. So I like getting my facials. I like massages. So that's, a little bit pricey, but those are some of the things I like to do. I'm gonna be honest with you, that's inexpensive. Sitting in my backyard and enjoying the air. Again, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, you guys, originally from Chicago, Illinois, but I currently reside in Arizona. And the weather here,
Mhm.
out of 365 days a year, hello, we have some of the best weather. So I love sitting in my backyard. And most recently, I would turn the camera to my girls. And what I mean by my girls are my plants. I have ladies in the house. My plants are everything to me, right? They are mental distressors because I'm caring for them. I love to see them bloom. I love to see them blossom. I love to spend time outdoors because the weather is so good and I love the sunshine. I mean, you cannot beat sunshine. I couldn't imagine living somewhere where I didn't have sunshine most of my life, right? Out of the 365 days a year. So those are some of the things, and I enjoy my own time. I love to read Audible, so I love listening. I love some of that. I love to sleep and relax. I may
Right.
not sleep as much as I like. Unfortunately, that's another symptom of MS. For my MS community, I know what it's like to lack in your sleep, but I try to get to as much rest and sleep as I possibly can. And I love spending social time with the people who I love, who I know love me, right? And I know that that's easy said than done, as you mentioned, because there are a lot of people within the MS community that may not have the strong support systems that I'm fortunate to have and thankful and blessed. Thank you, Jesus, for having. But those are some of the ways that I enjoy, making sure my mental health. Sometimes I work too, I'll be honest with you, because I'm one of those personalities that have that checklist personality. So I got to make sure things are done, In all seriousness, I'm really easygoing. I love, love, love music. I love dancing. Dancing is so much fun. I am, again, originally from Chicago. So I love stepping. So I love house music. God knows I love house music. And if anyone puts on house music, they know they can whip blast their head to me and neck because I am going to get up and do
Good.
something. So I love to just, I love to love life. I love to travel, mental health again. If it's a car ride, not too far due to my back issues, but I just love to do a lot of things that I'm sure a lot of my people in the MS community and others love to do.
Well, you are an inspiration. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure some of the
thank you.
information that people are going to get from this podcast will continue to help. So, give us some information about how you've explored maybe some alternative therapies or treatments, in addition to you saying you began to exercise and live that healthier lifestyle. Give us some insight on, some of those things.
Sure. So originally, I had started out after diagnosis. At the time, I think before diagnosis, I was already seeing a naturopathic doctor. And that was because, again, the symptoms I was trying to manage before diagnosis was what I was trying to address before I had it. So I had already had a naturopathic. And again, we have to be careful about what we put in our bodies. And so I always believe firmly about doing your research. And so I just knew I wanted to do something natural to help with some of the symptoms at the time. So at the time of diagnosis, then I began to do a deep dive into what exactly is multiple sclerosis, what's happening inside my body, what's happening inside my brain, which will possibly affect my spine, because if you have lesions on your spine, which I didn't know, those are the ones that typically show outwardly your MS, kind of like my mom, as I mentioned. That's another thing, MS community. You need to do your research, know the difference, ask the questions with your neurologist. Where are your lesions? What is that impact in the brain? What area of the body? So I went on to work with my naturopathic physician at the time. But then after doing further research and not kind of getting the results I was looking for, I started investigating and talking to other professionals here and there. And they wanted to start me on DMT therapies. And so that's when Copaxone at the time had the least amount of side effects that I felt were okay for me to take. I started out with Copaxone, doing the needles every day, which I know MS community you get needle fatigue real quick, and then I advanced to Aubagio, which is a pill form. So that's currently what I am. Mess just come so far from when I was a child and my mom had it to where we are today. You see commercials. You never saw commercials in the 80s and 90s about MS.
Mhm,
Never. So
mhm,
you
that's
hear
true.
about commercials of Oprah. You hear commercials about stars who had it. Back then it was Montel Jordan. You
Mhm,
heard a brief stint about his diagnosis, but then not much. But now there's so much awareness, there's so much, digging into what MS is at the state level. The therapies that are out there, you just gotta find which is best for you. If you wanna do infusions, if you wanna do pills, if you wanna do the needle shots, you just gotta find what works for you, and that is a conversation to have with your neurologist. But before that, please, MS community, do your research beforehand. Don't trust everything someone tells you. Do your research and know your body. Know where your lesions are. Know what areas of the body is going to be or possibly can be affected as you progress with the disease.
mhm.
That's good
Whew.
information.
I know people watching this are gonna get so much information from this. You are just being so transparent and so open about it, and that's what I love
Probably
about
too much, Miss Faye.
we don't know what other people are going through. And your story, your journey, is open as you are about everything, is so refreshing and it can
Yeah.
help people heal and make it through their trials. Or so that's why we even put together Pain to Triumph because we want to show, yes, maybe your mental state did start in this place when you were originally diagnosed. But my God, look where you're at now. You understand?
Yeah.
Being honored at the MS walk. Everything you've said has shown your strength, your resilience, your determination to help find a cure for this disease, to help motivate people. Like,
You see that muscle? It's up there. It's in
Yeah.
there. There it is.
so
There it is.
my question is, how has this journey, now you took that pain and you turning it into triumph, how has this journey shaped your perspective on life?
Oh, great question. I think because I've always been rooted in faith
Mhm.
and my walk with the Lord has been so strong that it has a tremendous impact in just it's rooted in faith.
So would you say it has increased your faith?
It has yes. Yes, it had to increase my faith. I'm a young lady here who's been through a lot, right? Aside from MS. And so having this additional, right, if you will, it has made my faith so much more stronger in that I know the things that I'm able to do is only by God's grace. You know, the things I still can say I can do, the things that I am able to persevere, I'm still able to work. There are some people out there who cannot work due to MS. Their disability won't allow them to. There are some people who are bedridden. Thanks be to God that that's not my story. I take nothing for granted. How about that? I take nothing for granted that I'm able and capable of doing. And I want to inspire those who are wherever they are in their walk with MS, wherever you still matter. Whether you're bedridden, whether you can't walk to the mailbox, whether you can't, wherever you sit in this disease, know that you are still valuable. You still have purpose on this earth. You still have something assigned to you to do. Start where you are. I am grateful and thankful that God has given me the ability to talk about MS. I never thought, even though I went through that season of questioning, like, why me? Boy, I was giving God all kinds of responses, right? And like, wait a second, this is not, and how come, and my brother doesn't have it? Why me? Like all those things that I'm sure a lot of people with MS, when they get the diagnosis, just really, begin to ask God. But I have to be honest in knowing that, okay, God, I know all these other things I've gone through before MS, and you carried me through.
Yeah.
You've walked me through so much.
Mhm.
There's no sense of giving up on God because He ain't never gave up on me.
Yeah.
And so I
Amen.
need to recognize that wherever I sit in my MS journey,
Mhm.
people may come and go, but God remains all the same. He the same yesterday,
Today
today,
and
and
forever.
forevermore.
Yeah.
So I bask, I bask in the fact that I'm his favorite, right? I bask in the fact that he loves me so, that he trusts me. He trusts me with
Mhm.
this. And so, for whatever he has his reasons, I just trust him that he will fulfill his purpose that he has instilled upon me. So, yes, it has tremendously improved, but it has tremendously pulled me closer to him.
And that's awesome. What are your hopes or goals for the future as it pertains to MS awareness?
Ooh, boy, that's some great questions. You guys ask some really great questions. What are some of my
We
goals
glad.
and hopes for raising MS awareness? I would like to start where I am. I'm planted here in Arizona. I don't have what the luxuries of what I observed from my mom. My mom had a strong community. Boy, that MS community in Chicago was popping because them potlucks and they would get together apart. They would make any reason to get together. I mean, I'm telling you, they would get together and they celebrated themselves in such a way. I would like to do that here in Arizona. I'm in Arizona here. I don't have a strong in-person community. So if you don't see it, then what do you do?
Build it.
You be it.
Yeah, be
So
it or build it.
that's right. Be it or build it. Whatever be you want to put in there, I want to be the one to build a community here in Arizona, honestly, of people who are like-mindedness, who understand one another. My husband has agreed that he would love to be, because he's a therapist by trade, that he would love to be facilitating conversations with caregivers. Caregivers need
Wow,
their space too.
that's
They
true.
need someone to talk to because I'm pretty sure it's not easy being a caregiver. If anyone out there who knows you had to caregive for a loved one, whether that be a parent, whether that be a sibling, whatever the case may be, whether you had MS or not, I'm just talking about caregivers. That's not an easy task.
Yeah.
So I would like to offer myself up. I would like to offer, even if it's virtually, because I know there are people across the state lines who need support. I would like to avail myself in hopes of inspiring, encouraging, and empowering to raise MS awareness, but most of all, to build community because there's a lot of people out there struggling and they're doing it in silence. And so we know that that's not healthy. Mental health is necessary in order to build community. So let me be a help support system for your mental health.
Amen. Amen. That is so beautiful that you're willing to even put something like that together if it doesn't exist. What would your message be to someone who was just diagnosed? What would you tell them?
Breathe, take a moment take a pause, center yourself. You go from that diagnosis to your car and let whatever comes up come up. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to yell, yell. Scream, holler. If you want to kick at the wind, kick at the wind. Whatever it is, let it come up and out. Let it come up and out. Let it go. Let it go. That's the first initial response, right? After that, breathe some more, take it all in, think about now what? What are my next steps? I would encourage you to again investigate where is the MS showing up in the body. If you are experiencing or have lesions, where are your lesions? And start to put together your questions for your doctor.
Mhm.
Start monitoring your day to day activities. If you start to notice a new symptom or a change in the way you are experiencing something, write it down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we got these things called phones, right? You have a note section in your phone, right? For those of you who can't get to something and say, I ain't got nothing to write it down. Put in your note section. Ask the doctor. Ask the
Mhm.
doctor. Discuss with the doctor, right? Write down some things. Since we don't have a cure, there is going to be some changes. And you want to be able to communicate, articulate that with your physician. But again, I encourage you to do your research, find you a network, find you a support system, talk about it. You know, don't hold anything in. Feel what you feel and be okay with what you feel. You don't owe anyone anything. You don't owe anyone anything. And I had to learn to make peace with that too. Whether
Mm.
you're married or single, whether you're a mother or not, you don't owe anyone anything but to yourself. Love yourself first and foremost. No matter the blemish, no matter whatever it is, love yourself. So, those are my things that I would encourage. Do your research, put together questions to learn where everything is in the body, how it affects the body. Document when you start to have changes and really love yourself and be patient with yourself because you're going to, and that's the probably, I'm talking to myself now. So I might as well put the finger up in front of my face and say, hey, be patient with yourself. It's okay to say no to something. And if people, you know, have a problem with it, let that be their issue. You don't have to take on everything else. So those are my things. And here's a virtual hug from me. Here is a virtual hug. Know that it's going to be okay. It's life after this. It's life after diagnosis. Girl, it's a whole life after this. Trust me. Live your best life on purpose.
That's it. Well, that's some great advice. As we are, this interview is coming to an end, I do want to ask you one last question. If your MS journey were a chapter in the book, what would the title be?
Whew. My answer to that would be unbreakable.
Lord,
Unbreakable.
that's awesome.
I'm not shattered. And this is something God gave me recently in a few years. I was going through a change with my son and my relationship with my son. It really had me going through something because as you know, MS community, you have to be careful about stress because
Mm.
stress will exacerbate the disease. Okay. So you have to be careful about the things that's why I said you can't take on everything. That's why your faith with God. Throw it to him because he can carry it all. And don't go back picking it up. It will be unbreakable because God told me one time, you may be going through a season of brokenness, but you are not shattered. And I said, huh? Because shattered is irreplaceable. You can't replace shatteredness. Just think of a glass, you shatter it, right? It breaks, it's shattered. You can't glue that back together.
Mhm.
A broken piece can be mended. It can be fixed. And when
Yep.
he was starting to really take me on what that meant and kind of showing me in a practical sense what that meant in my spirit, it just really resonated with me. And that's why I came up with the term unbreakable, because I may have some bruises and blemishes and brokenness, but I'm not shattered. So I'm unbreakable. You can't break me. Okay? You can't
Oh,
break me, boo. You can't break me. So come on, MS, if we in for a
And
fight.
for a
In
fight.
fact, my very first walk, I walked with boxing gloves on, because
Um,
in this, you gonna be fighting, we gonna be fighting. And again, it's a mental fight as well as a
um,
physical fight. And sometimes it may be a spiritual fight that you got to talk to Daddy God about and say, listen, God, this weight is heavy. Because I'm telling you, I've said that to him, like, man, you want me to live the rest of my life in pain? And so when you get real with yourself and when you get real with God, He will bring you clarity. So to me, it was unbreakable.
that's
amen.
awesome.
Man, that is
And
so awesome. Oh, this has been such a blessing.
it,
I just pray that those who join us on Pain to Triumph podcast will see this and be so blessed and overtaken with joy and just really understand you knew the assignment, that you gave out so much information, and that this just goes across the world to encourage people, to enlighten
Yes.
them, maybe to
Yes.
help
yeah,
them make it through. So we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you
you
for
so
sharing.
much.
And we want to thank you out there who are watching. And we hope that you're blessed. And stay tuned. We're going to be bringing you a lot more amazing stories where people just like Tracy can share how they took pain and turned it into triumph.
Just well.
If you would like to contact Tracy Dunbar, please go to our website at paintotriumph.com. That's paintotriumph.com, and leave your contact information. And in the notes section, put that you're trying to contact Tracy, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you so much.